Everybody, this is Ryan with Rigs of Death Metal. Today, my guest is notorious fighter Eric Olsen. You can currently see him with King of the Streets or BYB. Eric, how you doing this weekend, man?
I'm all right. How about yourself? Thanks for having me on.
Absolutely, total pleasure. Uh, Watched a shit ton of your fights, and I'm a huge fan
Oh, thank you.
um, of everything in the ring, as well as a lot of interviews and a lot of stuff I've seen outside the ring.
Yeah, I appreciate it. Yeah, I like a lot of death metal too. So it's cool to have an interview with a death metal podcast. I grew up on Long Island, New York, so listening to like repudiation and torturement and obviously internal bleeding, suffocation. Uh, I played drums too, and Brian Wishin, he was my drum teacher for a little while when I was real young. He was from um, entorturment and repudiation and played with everything. He's like an accomplished drummer that was big in the Long Island death metal world. So, yeah.
That's killer. I actually had no idea you played. I was gonna bring that up at some point.
Yeah. No, yeah. I'm boys with Mike Majewski too from Devourment. We've been
Nice.
friends since for about like 16 years. We know each other. Yeah. So I know Joe Riley too from what was it, Repudiation, and then he was in a band Core Locked. So I've been around like death metal forever. Like it's my favorite style of music. And when I say death metal, I mean like that stuff I'm speaking about. I'm not a fan of things like Suicide Silence and all that. Not to say that they don't have their place amongst people and they have some good moments, but it's not my perceived when I say death metal. Like I'm thinking of a very specific genre of specific type of playing it, like the old school internal bleeding or internal bleeding in general. Mortal Decay from New Jersey is my all-time favorite. And
I
Miami too.
I actually found another interview of yours, and you had thrown up Mortal Decay,
Yeah,
and I actually kind of got on a big kick listening to some of it. The
they're amazing.
Yeah, definitely puts me in mind of a lot of the bands you're talking about, like Internal Bleeding, maybe a little bit of like Skinless or some
Skinless
of
is
that
good.
nice like gurgly type
Yeah.
vocals.
Well, like Mortal Decay, like in New Jersey, their drummer Anthony, he writes like a lot of it, like all the lyrics. And one thing you'll notice about them, if you listen, you'll hear like time signatures. Like the bass will be doing a different time signature than the drums for like a second or two, and then they'll all go in unison. So like it's an interesting mix to be that technical, but like make it work instead of just straight blast beats and like whatever they're doing on the guitar, you'll hear like each instrument is playing its own thing for a second, then I'll come back in. But I'm a big fan of them. They're big in like New Jersey. I mean, they're big everywhere, but they were the New Jersey death metal scene as opposed to let's say Repudiation being like some of the earlier people with Suffocation and Long Island death metal.
Hell yeah.
Yeah, I could
Uh,
talk about death metal for days. I actually know my stuff.
it sounds like it. Kind of reminds me a little bit of Malignancy, like where
Yeah,
it's not just which is not to sound negative, but not just ignorant brutality for the sake of it. There's actually a
yeah,
lot of technical shit going on.
yeah.
Not that I don't love both equally.
Yeah. Yeah, it depends on what you're in the mood for. Are you a fan
Sure.
of Deeds of Flesh?
What was the band?
Deeds of Flesh from California.
Oh, absolutely.
I love
I've talked to their guitar player a couple times, just messaging back and forth. Craig, he's a really good guy.
I don't know any of those ones, but I've listened to their stuff since I'm like 16, so I love it.
Yeah, their original guitar player passed away a few years ago,
Yeah,
Eric.
yeah,
Yeah. I'm bad with last names, but
yeah.
hell yeah. So at what age would you say you kind of got into the scene and everything?
Oh, death metal or fighting?
Well, we'll do death metal first and transition to fighting.
Um, I was young. I didn't know about death metal till I moved to Long Island, back to Long Island when I was in like sixth grade. Before that, it was all like Metallica. Like Kill 'Em All was the first tape that I bought when I was like 8 years old and played it to death. And then like because you don't know anything when you're 7 or 8 or 9 or 10, I mean, unless you hear it. And then I heard Cannibal Corpse's Tomb of the Mutilated. Hammer Smashed Face, which I'm sure everybody has heard, obviously, when they're younger, though. It was that and Where the Slime Lived by Morbid Angel.
Yeah.
And I was like, what the fuck is this? What was it? Um, Sound wise with the music and the vocal styles, aside from the lyrics, the music and the vocal like sounds pretty much like was an image of like things that I could, it made me feel good to listen to. And like I was always wrestling in school, and like it would be something to listen to before like a wrestling tournament or something that would psych me up, like Deicide and all that. So pretty young, like, yeah, that's, and then being from there and playing drums, I got a drum teacher when I was a little older than sixth grade, like a little older than that. And that was Brian Wishin, who was heavily involved in the death metal scene. Like I said, he was drumming for Repudiation and In Torturement, and he's drummed with. I mean, Swarm Enemy isn't death metal, but they're pretty big. Like he's been all over. He knows everyone. So I had that around me too, so I could get like demo tapes of stuff before anyone would even hear it. Yeah. Michael Majewski from Devourment is also actually originally from Long Island. He's from out in Suffolk.
Hell yeah. Well, which it's cool you brought up wrestling. My oldest son he's on his second year of wrestling now,
Yeah.
which he's 9 going on 10. But
Best form of physical combat you could ever have anyone in.
the more I'm getting into it, I'm kind of learning for the first time, you know.
Yeah.
Try to sit in on practices and just pick up on stuff just for the sake of being able to kind of help him out. And it's given me a whole different appreciation for the sport in general.
Oh, it's yeah, it's great. Like I started doing it at 5 in like 1987, 82, 83, 85, 86, 87. Yeah, 1987, I was 5. And you would train after school and then you do wrestling tournaments. And they would have us cutting weight back then too at like 5, 6 years old. They put you in a sauna with a sauna suit and a spit cut and lose like 2 or 3, 4 pounds and then go and wrestle like 3 or 4 times in the tournament. So I did it from 5 to 15. Um, that's why I can kind of, unless like you're an American wrestler who went to college, and even then I can still hold my own depending on the situation. But if I'm like fighting in Europe, like you see with these guys who played soccer growing up, it doesn't matter how tough they are with the punches. If I can get their legs or a body lock or an arm drag, they're fucking dead. What was it? Yeah. So that's like my big thing is grappling these days. It's all I do. It's all I did growing up, and now it's come back to all I do. Like in 2020, I was training with all the Chechens and Dagestanis in Germany at a gym called UFD. And since then, it's just been constant like jits and wrestling. So grappling, because I'm more of a wrestling based jiu-jitsu person instead of a pull guard, go for a heel hook type of person.
Hmm.
But yeah, I grew up doing it and I loved it. And it's the best form of like to be able to understand how someone's body moves. And if you learn it as a kid, you won't forget it as an adult. Like it's muscle memory. Like if someone does something to drop your weight and like body lock them and what immediately to do off of that will be drilled into your brain if you've done it since you're a little kid, to the extent that you could even be half conscious. And if you get someone's leg low, you're going to hit them with a low single and give yourself a chance.
Damn. I do know in like well, your King of the Street fights that I've watched, I have noticed your grappling coming into play for just about every
Oh
one of them.
yeah, but yeah,
Um,
like you know what it is with like. So my view on it is everyone's obsessed with striking. Everyone who's obsessed with striking can't wrestle. They can't grapple. But
that's me.
yeah,
That's
like
me.
so when people talk about brutality, like over in King of the Streets, a lot of the hooligans don't like that. They prefer to knock their opponent out, which is fine if that's your thing. But if you think about it in a realistic standpoint, what's worse than getting physically, as an adult, grown adult man, ragdolled by another one while you're awake, thrown around like a toy, and then either choked unconscious or have your limbs separated from your body? It's like a death metal song. Or someone get on you and just pin you down and beat you half to death while you can't stop it. It's a lot more vicious than just knocking someone out with a head kick or a left hook, which I've done plenty and which I can do, but it's a lot more, in my opinion, personal and more vicious if you're going to grab someone. And it's like video games growing up. I always liked the characters that would like pick their opponents up and slam them through the floor, like Zangief in Street Fighter.
Same.
Anything, yeah, anything that was really big that the attack would take like 50 punches and then just grab them and flip them. I've always liked that over anything else. So
Oh,
yeah,
for
I'm the king of
sure.
the streets though. I've always I rely heavily on it. And a lot of those hooligans over there, some of them fight and they can do MMA. Some of them are great, but some of them aren't. And also, even the ones who are good, they don't have a system where they don't have a core memory. Like I was doing single legs and double legs at 5 years old in West Iceland all through my youth. So for me, I can usually get something I want on somebody who's only been doing it recently or doing it for 10 years because I've done it since I'm a little boy.
I say that's one thing that I've kind of made it a goal for myself. I'm pretty adapted, like, throwing combos and all that shit, and I'm pretty good at trading hands and shit, and was looking into Muay Thai, but
Yeah,
some Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu places around us. I'm wanting to
it's
kind of,
great.
yeah, but it's being able to striking is one thing. I think I like the way you phrased it in one of your posts, like just sitting there trading hands back and forth, which I've had plenty of fights like that where
Yeah.
that's what it came down to, just sitting there trading blows till somebody caves. But throw grappling into it, and it's such an equalizer. I've
Oh
had
yeah, it's like a gun.
Yeah, yeah. Um, it doesn't matter how much bigger the other guy is than you.
Well,
You learn where where to chop him down at, where his weak point is, where.
leverage. Yeah.
Oh yeah, 100%.
Like when you're talking about the grappling aspect of things, because I rely heavily on that, even in my BYB fights with the clench. Like it's Greco stuff, like stand up overhooks, underhooks, lean on them, make them tired, pull on them, snap their head down, head in their face, positioning. People don't know what they're looking at if they don't do it. But if you do three classes, if you do a boxing class, if you do a Muay Thai class, they'll make you tired. They're grueling. They are. Go to a jujitsu class and try that. Your soul will leave your body. Now, that's jujitsu, which is weak compared to wrestling. After that, go to a wrestling class. Take a class for people who are ex college wrestlers and got just wrestling. You probably die or you're going to need an IV based off of the level of training and the intensity and kickboxing, Thai, K1 boxing. That's all very 1 to 2 like aspects. You're not incorporating as much as you are. Yes, I know you're throwing from your legs, you're turning your hips. That's cool. But you're not incorporating your entire muscular and skeletal structure in trying to move another person who is not letting you and trying to move you. Like it becomes a grueling group picture picking up like a futon that's alive, that's trying to like move you. And now that you're going to do that for 5 to 7 minutes,
Yeah,
slam it around. It's the most vicious on your body. Um, so it makes you the toughest. Like when I have bare knuckle fights, like I'm injured right now. I tore my shoulder and I have the surgery on it 2 weeks ago. When I train for a fight, I don't even do striking anymore. Maybe a little bit of just because sometimes it's fun to hit pads,
sure.
but I just wrestle endlessly.
Yeah,
Endless wrestling classes in Scotland where I live, and jiu-jitsu after that. Because remember, a jiu-jitsu class will have 50 people. A wrestling class will have 10 because those jiu-jitsu guys are soft and just like to sit on the fucking ground. Well, is it? So I love jiu-jitsu. I love it. I love submission grappling, but I love catch wrestling. Yeah. And if you want to even be more technical, we factor in death metal into it. Put on some fucking internal bleeding during a wrestling class. You better have your fucking understand what you're doing. You're gonna get suplexed to death. That just makes people like belly to belly suplex, like as calm as a wrestling class could be. Put death metal on, and all of a sudden everyone's launching everybody across the room through the floor, like when the blast beats come on.
hell yeah. I love that you actually threw out catch wrestling too. I feel like not a lot of people talk about it, and then two of my favorite fighters ever, Josh Barnett and
Yeah,
Minoru Suzuki.
yeah, catch wrestlers. So when you're talking about submission grappling, like jiu-jitsu, catch wrestling, they don't, you don't do it off your back. It's a heavier based thing
Right.
of like getting underhook, put them in a front headlock, put pressure on them, make them uncomfortable, but don't pull guard. We're not going to go to. I'm not saying they don't have attacks off of your back. Of course, everything does, but it's more oriented for a grunt. Because listen, if you've done jujitsu, and anyone listening to this, you're going to have those amazing skilled guys who it's like rolling with a blanket. It doesn't even feel you throwing them around. You don't even feel anything until they lock up something and they're going to remove it. Like they lock your shoulder, they lock your legs, they lock your arms, your neck. It's just a more relaxed way of grappling. A lot of jiu-jitsu guys can do both, but they'll be more on their back playing open guard, and it's not even stressful until they want it to be. Whereas the catch wrestling mindset is like the wrestling mindset: head in head, snap them down, head into their face, grind them, slam them. Don't let any pressure off of any part of their body. It's just more of a crushing thing. I like that better with my style and my body type being so heavy and taking so much fucking steroids. What was it? It's more makes more sense. I'm not going for a heel hook in a street fight. I'm going to neck crank you
Sure.
or
That's
front headlock you.
that's one thing my boy has been trying to get more in the habit of going for, is that neck crank and trying to
Oh yeah,
just
they're
bring
vicious
his
from the side or the
whole weight
back.
down on him.
Yeah, if you get it from the side of somebody or the back, I like going at it from the side. A slight angle, it'll kill someone. But again, when I'm doing that, I'll always have like some like death metal riff of fucking mutilation or fucking dehumanized in my head. Like, oh, it's coming. I fucking got you now. Boom, snap your fucking head off.
Oh yeah. What what would you say would probably be like your favorite, if of any kind of grappling move, then if any, and it could be borrowed from wrestling, jiu-jitsu, whatever. What's like one thing that you think is the fucking coolest to pull off in a fight?
Double leg takedown
Oh, okay.
because
Yeah.
you have different variations. I can cut the corner and just drop you, or I can pick you up and I can slam you. So first and foremost, I'm a huge fan of double leg takedowns. I hate single legs with a passion because they're too tiring at my weight. Because if someone can fight it off, they can whizzer you. It's just too exhausting.
Hmm.
Although they have their place, but I like double legs. And as much as everyone says, and as much as I say that, if you watch my King of the Street fights, in every one, I use a low single ankle pick where I'm on the floor and I grab the back of their heel
I've
and I
seen it.
position my head. So the low single, obviously, the low single, not the normal single. I will never take a normal single.
Hmm.
The double leg, the low single, and then the body lock mat return. Because if you do that on the cement, the fight's over. It's a picking someone up and like slamming them like you're an orc from Lord of the Rings. Yeah, there's so many I like, but I would gonna go with the double leg into like a high crotch or something. Yeah. What do you play? You play guitar or anything?
Yeah, yeah.
Uh,
I guess my lighting's all dark, but I got a big wall of shit behind me there.
no, I see it. Yeah.
Yeah, let's see, I just turned 32. I've been playing since I was like 13.
Oh, nice.
Went to college for it for a little bit, but
Yeah. Are
no,
you in a band?
haven't had an actual gigging band since 2015,
Yeah. Do you have anything I
which,
could listen to when I get off?
oh, absolutely. And then
Yeah, send it.
I put some I've since then I put some shit out on my own. It's actually like, last band I was in was like a thrash metal band that played out a
Yeah.
good bit. But I've got some death metal shit that I'll send to you.
Thank you.
It's all me, and then I have a buddy doing vocals that I
Yeah.
wrote lyrics for and shit.
Okay, cool. I like thrash metal too. Yeah. I'm not into this new metal stuff. Like, um, I don't know. There's some bands I heard that lyrically they were kind of lacking. They were
Hmm.
they were good sounding until they went too high pitched with their vocals. I like things to be like Slayer or guttural.
Yeah. Uh, my only exception, I'm the same way. My only like real exception would be like I love Glenn Benton from Deicide is one of my favorite
Yeah.
vocalists, and I like when he layers like
Yes.
high and low kind of stuff where it just sounds like
Yeah,
a,
well, that's mixing. Yeah, I can listen
yeah,
to like a Phil Anselmo sing "Cemetery Gates." That's great, but
yeah.
I don't want to hear some new age death metal band that sounds like a screamo band for like two verses, and then they go really good for four, and then they go back, then they've ruined it.
Yeah. I know what you're talking about. So because I watched the trailer for King of the Streets, and I like, I think I have a general vibe of what we're trying to go for,
Yeah,
and the overall look that they're trying to take with, and some people might laugh at this, but the philosophy of violence and street fighting, and kind of like what it does. And you seem like a pretty like no bullshit guy, but
Yeah, no, I don't lie about nothing.
you know at the same time you seem like a pretty open-minded, pretty worldly and intelligent dude as well.
I think I am.
So, you know, without without maybe spoiling any content for King of the Streets,
Yeah,
um like what how would you explain, because I have kind of my own theory on this. How would you explain the fascination that people have with violence? Because we live in a, I think you could agree, at least here in the States, this our culture is kind of formed to, not only does it not really have room for a lot of violent behavior, it
yeah,
almost I mean it straight up it punishes it
yeah. Well,
unless it's on TV and people are being paid for it.
yeah, and then, yeah. Well, you have to think the world as a whole, with America being, I would say, maybe Canada a little more. I mean, every place has their moments, but the world as a whole is the safest time to live in the world is now throughout history. Like what I mean by that is yes, you have third world places. I'm not talking about wars. I'm talking about generally speaking, you do not have to worry about like a Mongol horde riding down your block, burning your fucking cattle, killing you, and taking your daughter and your son and selling them into slavery. It doesn't happen, but that's what the world was everywhere at one point or another. So we live in the safest time frame, unless yes, you have places that are like Africa and the Middle East where all these conflicts are going on. Those people might look at me and say, well, I don't live like that, and then that's fair enough, and you don't, but we do. Most Americans do. They live in a very comfortable world, and I believe the rest of the world, when they're not in those wars, with the exception of a few places, still lives in a moderately more comfortable time frame than 800 years ago or 1,000 years ago. Because even if you have a place like Africa where like tribes are killing each other, the UN might step in and say, "Hey, listen, you can't do that." Whereas back then, it wouldn't even have that. So I think the fascination comes with the lack of it. A lot of people tend to romanticize something they've never been through and something that they think they want to be through. Like what I mean is a lot of people will watch a movie like Gladiator and, oh, I could do that. That would be so glorious. When the reality is, motherfucker, you wouldn't even get through a professional MMA fight, let alone being enslaved and forced to fight in the fucking Roman gladiator arenas. So I think it comes down to just a romance, like people romanticize what they think they've seen and what they haven't been through. So that's the first thing. Also, the violent stuff is the most extreme because people will always, it's a human trait to put yourself in the position of what you're seeing. Whether you put yourself in the position of the victim or the victimizer is relevant. Most people's brains can compute both and they'll find one medium that they're able to stick with. But that's the other thing. It's like living vicariously through a third party, which you see a lot of with the UFC. But we're speaking about King of the Streets, which is a lot more violent. So it brings into play people who don't live that lifestyle, who've never even had a fist fight, but who want to romanticize what they could do with a fist fight, while at the same time maybe they're bored. They watched all the Viking fucking series. So now they think they could also be a Viking. Now throw that into the mix and you get like a Dungeons and Dragons type fan talking shit to me on YouTube about something I did in the fight that they didn't think was acceptable and what they would do if. So I think it's relevant to where and when we live. Like if you showed King of the Streets back in the day in like 750, nobody would give a fuck. Who was that'd be a joke. Everyone's killing everybody. Like so and so just raided a village and brought back 20 heads. What's cool about that? King of the Streets, it's a joke. But now, since you don't have that, and all this MMA stuff has rules and weight classes, all of a sudden this is exotic. So it's automatically a fringe, like taboo situation, and it draws everyone's in. And then you have the other people, the professional fighters who do this for a living. Myself, I'm a pro. I fight, that see it and they say, hey, well, we've done this A, B, and C, but this is different. And then you can look at it from that point of view of examining it. So I think it just falls into the idea that it's a time and place, and people don't have violence, so they romanticize it and they want to see it. Yeah, that's just my view on it.
No, I agree. Um, and I've read a few different takes on it from different people. Just the general idea that kind of like taking it back to when we were all just small tribes living together.
Like cavemen,
Yeah, like you had
minus the
people,
fucking weapons.
yeah, like the men usually, at least the able-bodied ones,
Yeah,
they guarded the perimeter, and then on the inside you had, the women, children, or those not able-bodied
yeah.
on the safe.
They're not.
And society now, that perimeter has just expanded farther and farther out. So
Well, it's
now,
because people don't have the threat of it, but at the same time, you also have. Listen, I'm all for girls doing what they want to do. I don't control anybody. It's not my thing. I can't. I don't care enough to. But there is a difference. So you have a lot of these female fighters and female jiu-jitsu competitors, and they are fantastic at their sport. Technically speaking, they're probably better than me, a lot of them, at their grappling, at their jiu-jitsu. But you could take any one of those women and put me in a shoulder lock that I cannot escape from a 205-pound guy, and I'm going to break your bones just by grabbing them and twisting your hand off. Physicality in the different sexes is going to prevail with a man being stronger, which brings it back to what you said. So, with a lot of this stuff in today's day and age, you got this idea that a woman who trains jujitsu can choke out a man. No, she can't. Even a guy that has no ability can still physically ragdoll her and break something on her by grabbing her. With that being said, King of the Streets kind of shows like what really works. Like, and again, wrestling. It's wrestling, not even jujitsu. Jiu-jitsu is great, but remember in the early King of the Street fights, they didn't allow submissions. They do now, but they didn't then. And you do not want to be on your back in a street fight, trying to put someone in a triangle choke on concrete. It's different on a mat. It's much different on a mat. You miss that triangle, he does something, he pushes your hips up over your head, and now you're on cement. It's not a good place you want to be. So showing what ultimately is like superior, which is wrestling, and then what I do, hold them down and fucking gouge their eyes fucking at. Suck on that, motherfucker. You want to punch me in the back of my head? Cool, hold on. I'm going to do something worse to you. And once you push your fingers past someone's eyeballs and you hit the base of their skull, and I've done it multiple times, 2 times you can see online, and they scream like they're being eaten alive by a fucking lion or something, the fight leaves them. And then they move once or twice, and then they go still and they're screaming and they don't, there's no fight left. So it shows what really works. Whereas in today's society, oh, well, my girlfriend is 125 pounds. She's an eighth degree black belt in jiu-jitsu. She could beat a man. Yeah, no, she couldn't. Like, this shows what really works. Like, this is great for that, for sport. But this isn't a sport. This is a fight with anything goes on the fucking cement, which is what it comes down to if the lights go off long enough. No one's going to be sitting there hand bumping, pulling guard. People are going to be eating each other for their own fucking food and water supplies. So I think that also shows people like what really is reality. You can say what reality is, but reality is reality. It doesn't change just because 50 people wake up in the morning and say, a woman trained jujitsu, she could tap out 20 men. Well, she can't. And I'm not insulting her for trying, but let's be real here. If the lights go out and your best jujitsu fighter fights me for a fucking case of water, she's losing. I'm getting the water. She's dying. And I think that King of the Streets kind of showed that with like different styles that people have brought, like the striking, the Muay Thai, the brawling, and they all lose to fucking perfect placed wrestling. El Greco, me, even Brian Hoy is very technical, but he uses his wrestling very well. Oak, a few guys, because I know all those guys that you see on the promo. Me and that guy Simon hate each other with a passion. He won't fight me. He's avoided me for a year and a half. He will not fight me. He knows what happens to him if he does. But yeah, I think that that's another part of the two part question of where it stands. I think it shows people what really works and what can happen, and the romantification. But then again, that also gets me a lot of backlash. A lot of people that like to romanticize this shit, they don't want to see a person held down screaming while I've got my fingers in the back of their eye sockets. It's too much. It's too extreme. But 20 minutes before, you thought you were Ragnar Lothbrok and you could easily fucking raid. And, it's different to say something versus seeing actually it happen or doing it. And that's like, I've pushed the limits of no rules fighting in Europe. Me, half those motherfuckers hate me, half like me, half other ones don't care. But a good portion of people want me banned from it because they say that I'm too extreme for no rules. It's crazy.
No, that's a kind of an interesting thing in and of itself because, like you mentioned earlier, I think people love vicarious violence.
Yeah,
Like no matter how people pretend uh, we're civilized beyond the need for violence,
yeah,
for a lot of people's day to day, sure, it might not come into play the way that you might imagine it.
yeah.
Um, if there's like an essay called "Violence is Golden" that's actually pretty cool, I think,
Yeah.
and it's like if you think violence isn't part of your day to day, just go anywhere and decide to just start acting a fool.
Yeah,
If you
100%.
just go anywhere, start throwing stuff around, cussing at people, shoving somebody, and if somebody doesn't step up and knock you out, the police will come and they're ready to do violence on you in a
Yeah,
heartbeat.
it's the same thing.
Yeah. So with that being said, the the vicarious violence, it's interesting to me how that's the limit for it is there's a moving target depending, on the individual. Um,
Yeah,
like
it's. I don't mean to cut you off,
no, you're
but
good.
also, the big thing with me, because anyone watching this that goes and sees my fights with the eye gouge, they feel some type of way about it. They like it, they don't like it. I get a lot of people who say that it shouldn't be allowed. I should be banned. Now these are in no rules fight communities. There's a few different reasons I think for that. One of which is like you say, people live vicariously, like romanticize it in third party up until they see something that's too much, that they really couldn't understand the texture of it, the screams, the sounds, the look of it. That's like teenagers going to gore.com and now they find the videos of people being killed by the cartel. All of a sudden, they thought now they feel sick to their stomach and they're freaked out. And whether that is what it is, it just you in your head it looks different than when it's happening in real life or you're seeing and hearing things. So I think a lot of people go with the fact we live in a safe world, more or less, and people do not have the ability to see things constantly that they think. Yeah.
Yeah, like the limits on vicarious violence I always found interesting. Like, how many people like American football, and that's kind of tribalism mixed with
Mm-hmm.
living, vicariously through people when you can't, act out it on your day-to-day job or day-to-day life, whatever. But then it's like, you watch some street fights, whether it was my mic is clipping a little bit here. There we go. Whether it's back watching Kimbo Slice's street fights whenever that was a thing, or
Yeah.
watching you now, it's like people are like, oh no, I didn't mean that much. It's like no,
Yeah, like well, there's another thing too that a lot of people don't get that are American. So, King of the Streets, first and foremost, is a European hooligan-based thing. So these hooligan crews that fight with each other, that fight with each other over everything. Like they fight with each other over their teams, they fight with each other over their areas. They just fight. I'm the only American involved. So you have this viewpoint from a lot of these Slavic people, Polish, Slovakian, these guys that Americans are physically weak and we can't fight. So when they see an American ragdolling one of their own, first off, wrestling, physically dominating them, to them, that's crazy. They can't understand it. And then because I win as much as I have so viciously with the eye gouges, that's still too much for them to take. So then they start talking about honor. Oh, there's no honor. Oh, there's no honor. No, there is no honor. Did you like these are the same people who are covered in Viking tattoos? Did you think the Vikings that sailed into villages and burned the villages and put axes through people's heads said, hey, we can't do that? That's no honor. No, it's a situation where you're fighting and the winner is the superior one, and that's that. And they don't like seeing an American fuck up somebody that, by their standards, should be able to destroy the American. There's a lot of like cultural and nationalistic conflict there because it comes down to the fact that America is a better place to live than a lot of these places over there. Our money, we could go over there with $1,000 and we got 10,000 to a lot of these places. Their wives and girlfriends and daughters all want to come here because it's a better quality of life with everything. and they see me fucking one of them up and they don't like it. So that's another aspect to it as well that people don't really understand. Like they're not too welcoming. I'm not saying King of the Streets. King of the Streets is not involved. They're not political. Those guys are great. They don't care where you're from, so long as you fight, they're cool. I'm speaking about the fans and some of the hooligans that dislike my tactics. And then you got hooligans who like it, but I'm just saying about a specific portion and group of people.
Well, for anybody that maybe they'll be watching this and get inspired, but for anybody who they didn't grow up training in anything,
Yeah,
maybe they have lived a pretty peaceful life, and now they're getting to a point where they feel kind of unfulfilled.
yeah,
I know plenty of people like that, and I feel like at some point in everyone's life they need to at least be capable, even if you don't use it.
yeah,
You need to
yeah.
at least be capable. So
100%.
for those people, what would you recommend to start off with? Maybe somebody they're in their mid to late 20s or something, and they're
Yeah,
just wanting to kind of jump into something, just to prove a point to themselves.
yeah. Best advice would be to start listening to death metal. Stop listening to fucking modern music. You suck if you do that. And join an MMA gym because MMA is going to go over wrestling, jiu-jitsu. And I say MMA over jiu-jitsu, over wrestling, because that's got something that they might like more than another thing. But they all do everything while you're doing it. You go to an MMA gym, they're going to drill you in takedowns and defense, kicking, punching. It's not going to be solely focused on a takedown like wrestling. It's not going to be solely focused on an armbar like jiu-jitsu. It's not going to be solely focused on a kick like Thai or a punch like boxing. So for people who don't have a history in it, I would say your best bet is to take all of it. And you ain't going to go to four different fucking gyms in 1 week. So go to an MMA gym. And from there, when they like something that they feel, oh, I like this more than that, or I don't really like this aspect, I'm never really going to fight, so I don't think I need this aspect. Then you have four different things you can draw on. Maybe then you join a jiu-jitsu gym, or you find some wrestling club that you like, or you just think you're fucking knock Muay and you're going to become doing Muay Thai every day, or you want to box. So it gives people the verse. If they join a jiu-jitsu gym, they're like, this sucks. I've been getting strangled to death by fucking people that look like they work at IKEA all day, or I got suplexed by somebody who looks like an orc from Lord of the Rings in wrestling. I don't like this anymore. I don't want to do it. So that's what I would say. It gives them more of a more texture to work with. Yeah.
No, sound advice for sure. Um,
Fucking, I hate this new metal. I hate it. I keep hearing it everywhere, and it sucks. Fucking, and when I hear it, like I've been listening to the same song since I'm like fucking 12 years old. I need some new fucking music to listen to.
I would say there's been a fucking ridiculous amount of really solid death metal bands come out over the last few years that are kind of like throwback a little bit.
Really,
Like a little
send me
bit.
some because I don't.
Absolutely, dude. Yeah, I've interviewed a shit ton of them too.
You know what it is? There's a thing called online. It's on Facebook. It's on no, excuse me. It's on YouTube. You probably know the channel. I can't remember the name of it right now. Slam Nation, Slam or something. It's
I feel like I've seen it.
it's got all these different death metal bands that are always coming out, and I basically listen to it. And based off the artwork, I'll go to it. Like if I can't read the name, I'll give it a chance. There's a
That's
really good
fair.
death metal band from Japan called what the fuck is it? No Man. Oh, I can't believe I'm forgetting the fucking name right now. I'll send them to you. Or did I send them to you already about a walkout? I'm not sure.
Oh,
I think I did.
yes. Yes, you did check. I can't I can't remember the name of them either, and I probably have them somewhere on my Apple Music, but
Yeah. Well,
I did
I
check them
talked to
out.
those guys for a few years. They're from Japan and they're great. They're like old school. I love their stuff. They have slams. They never get high with their vocals. Sound like they're fucking Axl Rose and Guns N' Roses, who's a bad version of Phil Anselmo. Um, it's all fan. I love their stuff. What was it? They're cool too. They'll speak to you.
uh
Where are you from?
West Virginia.
Okay, there's a lot of good death metal bands out of there. I've met people from there that has like stuff.
They're few and far between, but there have been some really really good ones.
I'm trying to think. There was a band called Dysentery that I feel like they were from down south a little bit.
I know Dysentery. I'm spacing on where they're from though, so I'm not
I thought they
sure.
were from somewhere.
But
Um, hmm,
as far as like really sick Japanese bands, Violent Life, Violent Death. You know them?
I haven't heard them. No, I don't. I only know the one. Um,
Or actually, I may be mixing them up here. I think I'm mixing them up with somebody else. Scratch
yeah.
that. Damn, there was a I won't bother trying to dig through my playlist right now, but I'll definitely forward you some here after a while because there was a couple really good ones. I went on a Japanese death metal kick and just saved a bunch, and
Yeah.
then now I can't remember any of them off the top of my head.
I
That's
think the
kind of how it always
Japanese death
goes.
metal and like Brazilian death metal is like fantastic. Anything from Latin America, like Colombia, is going to be vicious. And then like I go to Europe, uh, like Austria and Germany and Sweden and Norway for like black metal. Like if you want to burn a church down and like black metal stuff. But if you want to like songs about like sounds and feels like chopping someone up with a machete, like Colombia, Mexico, Brazil, Japan. I don't know. I feel like they never. I've heard a ton of bands out of there. I can't pronounce names, but they seem to constantly always do very good. Whereas these American counterparts, I guess, are like, oh, we've heard this 100 times. We're not stuck in 1993, so let's mix in like fucking Justin Bieber with our fucking blast beat, and then I hate it. I never want to listen to it again.
Yeah, I've known that. I've noticed that a lot with a lot of Brazilian bands. There's a lot of like that war metal, like
Yeah,
blasphemy and sarcophago kind of thing going on.
yeah,
But I also
it's
notice a lot of
crazy.
like really slamming kind of
Yeah,
and
I
like
love it.
I feel like there's like some like Malaysian bands too that really get
Yes,
into that kind of stuff.
again, anyone who looks like they're fucking related to Genghis Khan either plays good death metal or will out wrestle you, or both. Yeah, you know the type that you don't know if they're like from Mexico or like fucking Philippines, and they're gonna play amazing speed metal, and
Hell
they're
yeah.
probably gonna fucking fuck you up too if you start fighting with them because they've been growing up wrestling in the steeps of like fucking Malaysia.
Hey, throwing back to wrestling. It was a point I wanted to kind of interject earlier. Going
Yeah,
back to Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu.
hmm,
Obviously a lot of it is gonna stems from you know, uh, being on your back. Um,
yeah,
and kind of referencing back to Josh Barnett again and being a big
yeah,
catch wrestling fan, he was on, I want to say like Lex Friedman or some podcast like that, and just talking about wrestling and combat in general. And he's like,
yeah.
he's like, look through the history of warfare and hand to hand combat in general throughout history. Being on your back has never once been an advantageous position.
No,
The
don't want to be there.
the samurai invented jujitsu for when they were disarmed and they were desperate, and
Yes,
it's just some kind of way to fight back when they were losing.
yeah, yeah,
Um, so it's one of those as cool as I think BJJ is, and as useful as I believe it could be, especially in like a an MMA kind of
yeah,
setting, because look at the beginnings of UFC. It was kind
yeah,
of almost just a big advertisement for the Gracie School of Jiu-Jitsu.
yeah. Came
Uh,
that, yeah, for the first, second, and third.
yeah. Um, I'm still mad that Gracie beat Dan Severn.
Yeah, but see that and that goes into my next thing though. Like, so when I say about being off your back, a lot of people sometimes think that means don't do it. Fuck no, do it. You want to be able to feel comfortable enough. I'm just saying I won't. That's not my go-to. But like in King of the Streets, there was a fight where I got my head stomped by French Viking, and he throws a knee, and I'm on the floor, and I catch his leg, and I hit him with a single leg, and then I turned it into a sweep. And that sweep is all jujitsu off my back. Like if I didn't know, if I hadn't trained jujitsu forever, I wouldn't have been able to sweep him. So something that I consider useless, but I still drilled tons of times, quite literally saved my fucking head. from getting put into the concrete mixed with my wrestling. So it's like, as much as I will never go to my back unless I have to, it's good to try to know what to do if you find yourself there. Better than being there and being like, well, now it's time to know it, and you don't. And Barnett is 100% correct, but Barnett has also got the luxury of being a gigantic human being. He's a
That's
lot
true.
harder to put on his back than your average person. He's like, what is he, like 6'3", 6'5" ish or something?
Something like that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
200 and something pounds. Like he's a physical creature. So the average person who doesn't have that behind them, you would want to drill those uncomfortable positions just in case you ever found yourself in them. And remember, here's the biggest thing. If you find yourself in a situation and you've been training wrestling, jiu-jitsu, and you're fighting with somebody, even if their person's enraged, who has no ability, they've never trained in their life, you would be surprised how easy it is to do things you only think you could do in your dreams. Like if I move with certain people that in Europe or in England, I feel like I'm fucking Kurt Angle with my wrestling in like the Olympics. I'm not that good, but with them, like I'm tossing people over. It's because the fundamentals, like your son, by the time he's 20, if he grabs somebody up who's 30, who's never wrestled a day in his life, you'd think that your son was going to be fucking Division 1 champion or was. And it's the same thing with the jiu-jitsu. Like someone who has no jiu-jitsu knowledge against you've been doing jiu-jitsu for a year, you'll be sitting there laughing to yourself like butterfly sweeping them. You think you're like you're gonna want to go to the Pan Ams then and be like, yeah, I'm ready. I'm ready for Gordon Ryan. What was it crazy. I guess the best way you could describe that is like when I was drumming and I got my fucking Iron Cobra hi hat compared to the other one, or DW double drum double bass pedal parts on my Iron Cobra parts on it and stuff. Like it just increases everything so much that people don't realize it. People are just kind of too accustomed. You see it all over the place. You have a UFC thing on in a sports bar. Everyone's saying what they would do.
Oh yeah.
Like motherfucker, you couldn't even do to get through the warm ups in a fucking wrestling fucking class. I'm going to be dead when I get back. My fucking shoulder is going to keep me out for a minimum of 6 to 8 months, and then I'm fucking no wrestling for 6 to 8 months. It's going to be fucking horrible. One of the first few classes back, I might die.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Uh, how is your shoulder doing, by the way? I've been meaning to ask you about that.
it's better. Just for everyone who doesn't know, I threw a jab in my last fight in BYB, and I cut his face open, and it was just kind of like a perfect storm. Threw the jab perfect, hit him, cut him. His full body weight fell into my knuckle. It traveled up my arm, and it ripped my infraspinatus tendon off the bone and totally severed it in half. And I tried to fight for an extra 3 minutes, but it wasn't working. And then I called it because I was like, I think I'm going to, I thought I dislocated it. So I was like, if I stop now, maybe I won't need surgery, but it was already torn. And so when they went into my shoulder, they also found a labrum tear, a slap tear, which wasn't from the fight. That was just from training and fighting all the time. So I didn't even know that I had the slap tear that bad. So they fixed that. Then they put my tendon back in the bone and stitched it up. And then they went into my bicep and they shaved off some bone spurs and they tightened up my like bicep tendon because apparently when you get an injury in one, like everything gets hurt. And they like wrap them in a sheath. So as I train when I'm better, they don't just grade on each other. So yeah, it just is a lot of pain. You just can't use it, can't do anything, can't really even run or anything because you don't want to like jolt your body around and have the tendons not healing. So I'm just been fucking laid in bed watching Oz again, the HBO fucking show, not the Wizard.
No, I figured.
I'm getting
I
myself on.
it's kind of hard to picture you sitting there just mean mugging at Dorothy or something.
Yeah, no.
uh so what is your game plan with your recovery? Obviously 6 to 8 months, and once you're out, I imagine probably going to be training for an X amount of time and then
Yeah.
looking at fights.
Yes. So my plan is I'll be fighting within 12 to 13 months of the surgery this month because you got to got to heal it up, and then I want to be in good shape for it. So I want a rematch with the guy that it happened with, that Maja guy, because you know he can say that he won, but I hurt my arm hurting him. So yes, it sucks in combat sports. If I throw a kick and it breaks your arm, but in the process I break my leg, technically you won. So technically he won, but he knows, like everybody else, that he didn't hurt me. I hurt me. I didn't get hit in the fight. So I would like him to be my first fight back. And then I got my King of the Street stuff. So it's going to be by the end of 2024. My recovery plan is just what it's been. Let it heal, then physical rehab, and then uh, yeah, I keep hearing about these like peptides I should take. I'm going to look into those. I take stuff anyway. I mean, I admit it. So that stuff doesn't cellularly heal your ligaments, but it can help your muscles, I guess. Uh, yeah, just rest and heal. That's the biggest thing. I'm not looking to fucking, my arm use was totally gone when this happened. It's a pretty fucking miserable thing, and this is just getting after the leg break that I had. I had two broken legs. I had broke my leg twice. Oh, since December of 2022, and I was fighting on that broken leg multiple fights. So yeah, whole situation sucks. But I'm like 41. I've been training forever. I fight forever. I fought everywhere. I fought in Dubai, fought in Thailand, fought in Poland, fought in Sweden, fought all over England, fought in Scotland, fought in Wales, fought in Alabama, fought in Tennessee, fought all over New York, everywhere. Um, so it's good that it happened on the promotion of BYB because they really looked after me. Their insurance dealt with this. They paid me tons of money just to help me live because I can't really work at the moment with one fucking arm. Uh, yeah, that's it. Just heal up and maybe I'll drop some weight. Maybe I'll go back down to 205, maybe 205 or a little up. But it's just been a headache with this because it fucking hurts. And you don't realize how much it hurts until you're like eating a sandwich and you go to like grab the fucking thing and your arm feels like it's being ripped off your body. Ugh.
Well, that kind of gives me an extra little level of appreciation for BYB, knowing that they take care of their fighters so well.
Oh, they're the best company, yeah. Them and King of the Streets. Like King of the Streets isn't so BYB has some serious money behind them, but they care. Now, with that said, a lot of companies have serious money behind them, but they don't give a fuck. BYB, they pay all in total on. Let's. I got to. So I'm going through some immigration issues at the moment because of something with my visa that I didn't know I needed. They paid for my immigration lawyer. They paid for my fucking because it happened while I was fighting for them. They've given me about 10 grand extra on top of what I already got paid just for me and flying my family over here and just to live with. I could message Mike tomorrow and be like, hey, I need 4 grand. My arm hurts. I ain't been able to get back to work. He'd do it without a problem. He's done it before. King of the Streets, I broke my leg fighting on one of their shows. And since I broke it and I kept fighting, they gave me some money. They hooked me up. Those guys are super great too. They just don't have the funds of BYB, but they look after you. But BYB has been fanatical. They were on the phone with the insurance company and the doctors making sure that I got this surgery with one of the best surgeons around. So yeah, I'm very pleased with BYB. They're a great company. Mike, the owner, Vasquez, Mel, the matchmaker, super cool. Greg Bloom, he's like a CEO. Don Pahovia, he does like the media. They're all really great guys. And if you need something for them, they treat you like they actually care. Versus other companies that you can't even get the fucking money back that you spent getting to the event.
Hmm.
So yeah, like BKFC is big, but Dave Feldman's a scumbag. Dave Feldman fucks fighters big time, and I if you're not lucky enough to be one of the money makers for him, he's not going to do anything favorable for you. Whereas BYB straight up gets you the surgery you need. You're out for a fucking year, and they still are on top of everything with you, checking on you. They're fantastic people.
Oh yeah. With just cause out of curiosity, with King of the Streets, obviously it's not as big of a uh funded operation as some of the other companies that you
Yeah,
worked with.
yeah.
Um logistically, what how do they operate? Because it seems like do they just try to find these like isolated vacant places? Are there any actual kind of permits? Is it
Uh,
technically illegal?
no, it's
Or
illegal where it's happening. Yeah.
that's what I
Well,
figured. But
yeah. So you have to look at it from two ways. Why is something illegal? So the first reason would be in America. I can't speak for where it takes place, but in America, they want you to have licensing. Why do they want you to have licensing? Like taxes. Think of it that way. If you want to start a fight a venue, they can say fighter safety. Nobody gives a fuck. They want you to pay them to do it. So if you set up an underground fight club in an abandoned warehouse anywhere, you're not paying any fees to go to what people want, like like taxes. Yeah, it's illegal over there. They're not paying anyone anything. There's no sanctioning bodies. It's them. You get out of line with them, and they'll fucking deal with you. Um, there's no drug testing. They want you to do steroids to make the fight violent. The weight class you agree on, it's usually about 10 pounds within each other. Unless you're over 220 pounds, then there's no weight class. Um, and there's no rules. It's quite literally what he says in the thing. The venues for it are places that, like, I guess, like in your area or my area where I grew up, you would know, like a place you could do this in, like an abandoned factory where you would have a rave or something. They'll put it on there. But like, there's no sanctioning bodies. And I believe that's ultimately why it's considered illegal, despite what some people might say, the violence aspect. I think everywhere, all over the world, if you do not pay somebody who has a corner on the market of combat sports, then they're going to say you don't have a license, you can't do this. But the only point of the license is just to the motherfucker who prints the license out gets your money. So, yeah, no, there's no underground like secret committee that actually okays it. It's the guys who set it up who are all hooligans, and you go there and then you fight, and depending on how you fight is depending on how you're treated. If you lose but you fought hard, they'll respect you and bring you back and give you some cash. If you lose bad, like you get hit once and cower up, they'll just leave you on the floor, go home, get on yourself. I mean, you have your ticket booked, obviously, but they're not going to like, they're real guys. They've been around, they've been through their own things. I don't really speak about them. I don't speak like names or who's who. I don't speak about
Sure.
anything outside of like the direct questions, like you asked. Um, is it really no rules? Why is it illegal? More or less, yeah, because nobody has licensing. But I'm not going to get into the other stuff. But yeah, there's no licensing and there are no rules, and it's them. They regulate it themselves. They're the ones that are watching it to stop it as a referee, and they're videoing it. And yeah,
Wow.
yeah. So it's definitely and it's on cement.
Yeah.
And there's different types of cement in case anybody doesn't know that. What I mean by that, you've got your cement that would be in like a warehouse, which is like coated with paint and smooth. And then you've got your favorite type of cement, like fighting on the top of a fucking parking garage. I like that one the best because it's the most vicious. I mean, that cement is exposed to the elements in cars. It's like razor blades on the ground. And I like that because it's vicious. Like, and when I take you down, I'm going to lose my knees, and so are you. You're going to feel it. I fought on all different types of it, but that's the fucking worst one is the one outside exposed to the elements. All cement is not created equal. I'll show you some pictures after. I'll send you something of my knees after one of my fights with the cement that
Oh
was
yeah.
exposed to the elements. Yeah. You've got another company called Respect of the Streets, Frontier. They're in Germany. They're starting off. I know those guys pretty well. They're really cool too. They're a lot less than King of the Streets when it comes to like they have no rules fights, but they're just getting started. So they'll still do like MMA gloves or
Okay.
K1 or like two fighters got to agree to no rules. But they're great. They're really cool guys. They take care of their fighters too, but they don't have the bankroll behind them that like a BYB has or a BKB has. But they'll do what they can. But King of the Streets is King of the Streets, and everyone underneath them. And I say underneath them, like Respect the Streets would ask for their okay and like their blessing, so they don't get seen as a competition. So they're working with them, and like it's pretty cool. German, those guys are all German. The ones in Respect to the Streets, they're a little more out in the public because while it might be illegal, it's not like the guys from King of the Streets, like where they're located. Um, the media really tries to fuck with them and ruin them. Uh, like trying to say that like they're extremists and all this. They're not. Just hooligans that have had 100 fucking fights at fucking football games that like to have these fights, but the media doesn't know anything about them. So they paint them a certain way to try to like, and in that culture where they live and where they're at, that can like affect their social stand. People could lose jobs and everything, which is why you see a lot of guys that are recording it with the mask so nobody knows. You
Right.
do because you could lose your job over there over being involved with it. But then the flip side of that is you'll get these people that like are in England or America, 90 pictures of them with their kids watching the Grinch, and then they got one picture in the fucking mask. Like, shut up. Everyone knows who the fuck you are. You're on your Facebook, you idiot. These motherfuckers, you don't know who they are because they don't want to lose their fucking situation because the media is portraying them as fucking Adolf Hitler, which they're not. Yeah, if people actually knew, which I'm not going to say what's what, they would really feel stupid because they're not the way the media portrays them. I wouldn't fuck with them, but they're not like some right wing neo-Nazi group. They are not political at all. They just are fucking hooligans that like to have fights and organize fights, and that's it. And everyone else goes crazy in the media.
I I remember watching one clip. I guess it was at the end of one of your fights. It was a parking garage somewhere, and I
Yeah,
think you beat the guy, and I think his buddy or something got pissed and was trying to jump in on it,
uh,
and
I know what
the
you're talking about. Yeah,
organizers actually like broke it up and got it separated. And I
did
think
more than break it up.
yeah,
Yeah, I'll talk about that. That can be spoke about because it's been on it was live when it happened. I had a bad blood fight with this neo-Nazi, this guy named Tamaz. He's French, but he lives in Poland. No, he's Polish, but he lives in France. He's like a hardcore neo-Nazi, like jumped an old homeless man for being black and stomped him. Me and him hate each other. I can't stand that neo-Nazi shit. We don't get along. So we were going back and forth forever. We met to fight. It was in December. It was like -7 degrees Celsius or -7 degrees Fahrenheit. I fought him with a broken leg. He fought me weighing like 50 pounds less. He kicked my broken leg. I dropped. I picked him up. I low singled him. I slam him. I finish him with an eye gouge. Fight ends. They break it up. The ref stops it. When the ref stops it, he doesn't accept his fucking loss. So he jumps back on me. Now everyone's going crazy. While he's on me, he's trying to choke me out. I'm just thinking there's going to be a fight behind me, and I don't want to have my back exposed. So the fight's already been over. The referee broke it up. He stopped us. I win. They pulled me off of him. This idiot jumps back on me. He's trying to choke me out. So I'm trying to get him off me. So I tap the ground like, okay, cool, let me up. He doesn't let me up. Cool. So now I start ripping his balls off his body. When I rip his balls half off his body, he's screaming and going crazy. Now he lets go of my neck. Now they run back up and they stop it again. They pull me off of him. And what everyone saw was his boy ran up behind me in a ski mask and grabbed me. And I didn't know it was him. I was tired. I was cold. My legs killing me. I didn't know who's who. I thought it was the King of the Streets guys pulling me off him again because one was there doing that. It was his friend. And yeah, his friend got fucking soccer kicked all over that fucking parking garage. His friend had a very bad fucking long 5 fucking minutes after that. Yeah, that happens a lot though because you have these like hooligan groups that either don't know each other or don't like each other, and they might get out of control, and then there's going to be a fight between the organizers and them. That's why they set it up like you could bring 1 or 5 people, depending on who's who. So there's not gonna, so no one's gonna like show up with 90 guys and just try to like storm everyone. Yeah. No, the Commanders and the Giants are fist fighting on the sidelines. Both
oh
of those
nice.
teams suck.
Well, thank you for elaborating on that story because I've seen the clip, but it does kind of devolve into a little bit of chaos for a minute.
Mm-hmm. A
But
lot happened even after that I won't talk about. But
sure.
like when the camera shut off when he was falling on the ground, he was started getting his fucking ass beat, and they was getting treated like a soccer ball. Fuck him. I don't know who the fuck he thought he was. If he wanted to fight with me, he had his chance before the fight. Should have walked up and said something. I'd have fucking put hands on him and then beat his friend up. Yeah,
Which
idiot.
man, so you're the first like non-guitar player or bass player, you know, that's normally what our
Yeah,
guest demographic is. Because obviously
I am
we're
a drummer.
right, which is actually pretty sick, and we'll talk a little bit about that too. But for anybody, hopefully plenty of people watch this. For our normal demographic that's watching this and they're used to hearing about people's, you know, amps and cabs and crap that they use. Uh, this was an opportunity because I love combat sports in general,
Yeah,
and this was just an awesome way for me to kind of branch out. When I saw some of your posts and stories and saw that you were a death metal fan, I'm like, that's my way in.
yeah.
Awesome. And I I'm sure you would agree with me that there is a certain connection for people that are fans of there's a lot of people that follow this page that are they're huge fans of both.
Yeah.
Like
Oh
there's
yeah, yeah,
there's one guy I've talked to a little bit. He's always posting clips of him either listening to or playing death metal while watching like some classic UFC or something or
yeah,
some bare knuckle or whatever.
yeah,
Um, for those that are maybe big death metal fans or even casual fans of extreme music, whatever, and you haven't really delved into the world of combat sports, um, now would be a really good time to maybe just give yourself the opportunity to be a little bit open minded and get into it because whatever it is, I that at least I think whatever it is in you that makes you like that shit, I think
yeah,
you'll find you'll enjoy combat sports in general, whatever
yeah.
it is, Muay Thai, kickboxing, boxing, street fighting, MMA, whatever.
Yeah,
Uh,
something for everybody.
it's like there's a, especially extreme music, death metal, black metal, grindcore. There's
Yeah.
like this, there's like a, it's like a missing void, I think, for a lot of people that they're
Mhm.
wanting that extremity. And
Yes.
we, you can't go work your 9 to 5 and experience that usually. So
No.
there's
Yeah, just
that
don't get mad
primal.
after they go watch and see me eye gouge. Don't get mad at me for eye gouging. You support
Right.
death metal, you support eye gouging.
Ex- That's right. I think we needed, I think, because we have like, this isn't a shameless plug, but we do have a merch store. That would be
Hmm.
so sick to do a collab like t-shirt that
No.
and
Yeah.
throw that up as a quote on the back or something.
Yeah. Yeah. Fucking yeah, like I said, I don't think anything fits what I do better than like slam riffs of like some death metal band. When they start going and like the guitars start going. And that's like all I'm picturing in my head when fucking fighting. Like I'll listen to shit like that. So yeah, what was it? No, I mean, what's your favorite? What guitar do you play?
Say it again.
What's your favorite guitar? Like if you have one.
Oh, it's actually upstairs right now. Oh, nope, it's over here. Hang on, I'll just grab it.
Yeah.
It's actually this custom one I had made. The guy
Hmm.
kind of hooked me up because he's just like a one dude. His brand's called WKM, and
Yeah.
it's kind of like a
I like
new
the color.
guy. Hell yeah, kind of a new guy
Nice.
starting
So
out.
nice. It
But
looks cool. I like it. Yeah.
yeah, yeah,
Um, my father played guitar. He still does. So like growing up, I mean, he's not into my style of music or yours, but growing up, he had a what was it? There's a Paul Reed Smith guitar, I believe,
yeah,
something like that. He would always play, which was like a purple color, which is my favorite color. But it was like, yeah. So I've always been around Gibsons and all that stuff, different types of guitars. Although his type of music isn't my music. I'm not into fucking jazz or blues or anything like that. I've been always trying to get him into like just listen to the intro to When Satan Rules His World. And my dad's like 80. He didn't want to do it. But what do you think of this guitar from Trey Asgaroth from Where the Slime Lives? And he's putting on like fucking some jazz or blues stuff. I'm like, I don't like this, Dad. It doesn't do anything. What was it? You need to listen to like fucking Slayer. And yeah, so, but like, that's why I was asked. I tried to learn guitar when I was young. I had absolutely no ability to hold my wrist like that and play. It just seemed fucking impossible and it got more impossible as I got older. So the drums were pretty easy, like the way my brain works. I played some keyboard with like some hard edge, like industrial music, which is fucking simple because you just need to press a key and everything else happens.
sure. Uh,
But yeah,
I've actually tried to get into writing a little bit of industrial stuff too, but like like some very like ugly dissonant. Like you ever heard Absent and Body?
um, I maybe if I would hear them, I don't know off the top of my head. Have you heard of Bile?
Vile?
No, Bile.
Oh, Bile. I don't think so.
I'll send you their stuff. You'll like it because it's industrial, but it's based around guitars.
Okay. Hell yeah.
It's very interesting. It's very heavy. It's actually probably heavier than a lot of death metal, surprisingly, with the way they use their distortion and their effects on the guitar and the voice. But yeah, and then like like Fear Factory, they used a lot of like Reese Fulber with the
Sure.
synth. Um, so but yeah, I could never play guitar or bass, and no matter how much he tried to teach me or I took lessons, I could not separate both my hands.
Hmm.
Like from it's strange because on the drums you're gonna change time signatures up. Like if I'm doing my fucking ride cymbal or my hi hat and my double bass, there's a good possibility that I'm gonna use at least for a moment or two different time signatures if I want to do a little like roll with my double bass while keeping in tempo with my hands, and then my hands might change. But that made sense. But it doesn't make sense the way you guys play guitar. You got your bottom hand doing something totally different from your top. Like I can't even begin to fucking form like the way you would even hold it. It doesn't work.
That's crazy to me because I know how to write drums. I can even write out music notation,
Yeah,
and I program drums and stuff on my computer, and I know
yeah.
drums, but to for me to physically like sit and play them, uh, yeah, I just look like an idiot.
I
It's
started that when I was young. I remember going through all those lessons, like the paradiddles and everything that they have you doing. And I ended up with, by the time I finished, it was like I had a Mapex Venus series with all Zildjian hi hats, Iron Cobra, no, not hi hats, Zildjian cymbals, Iron Cobra hi hat, and then I had DW double bass pedal with Iron Cobra parts for that too, all hooked up and like fucking three floor toms. It was a crazy set, but I ended up going to prison in my early 20s, and it got thrown away. It got put in storage, and the storage flooded, and that was it.
damn, that's sad.
Depressing. I had a good hookup too because Brian Wishin was sponsored by Zildjian, I believe, and all these of Sabian and all this stuff. Attack drum heads are great for snares, and so he would get like these crazy deals, or he'd be like, "Hey, you want like all these cymbals? I don't need to use them." So I had a crazy set for someone who was doing it as like fun with their friends in like a few bands that never did anything, just stuff that we did like locally.
Yeah.
Uh like yeah, decent. Like I was also the roadie for a Core Lock, which was Joe Riley and Brian's like metal band when I was like 18, and those guys are like New York death metal like geniuses. I would go and like set up Brian's drum set at the shows all over from upstate to New Jersey to down, yeah, everywhere. So yeah, been around drums for a while. Oh, I
Well,
always like the fucking guitars though. So I guess it's what you don't do that seems the coolest.
that's fair. Because I know a lot of guitar players that kind of say that they wish they played the drums or they wanted to play the drums, and maybe their parents thought it was too loud, so made them play guitar so you could, whatever, turn it
Yeah,
down. But uh
yeah. I feel like if I was a guitarist, I would just sit in my room playing a slam riff endlessly, like just writing slam riffs nonstop, like 24/7. Like I don't know. I just feel that would be like my thing to just consistently sit there and just write slam riffs, like take some acid and write more slam riffs.
hey, there's a lot of guys that make a living doing just that.
Yeah,
But man, try to kind of well, we don't have to wrap this up just yet, but we'll kind of start heading there. One thing I
yeah,
wanted to go over, I saw that King of the Streets for the documentary, which we have as the backdrop here.
yeah,
Um, I saw that they reached their crowdfunding goal.
yeah, yeah, yeah. I think
Um,
they did like 70,000 euros or something.
hell yeah, that's awesome. Do they have a set release date for the documentary?
No, actually, I'm not sure when that's going to be. It'll be sometime next year. You see, because they've done a lot. So they're doing this like that guy Simon, that fucking idiot. They're having him as like a main focal point. But because me and him differentiate so much on everything in life and even fighting, they've put me as the villain, which basically I am because I always talk shit to all those people. So they're gonna come out here to New York and do like a heavy, in-depth interview with me for a few days, and then
Okay.
a few more when I'm back overseas in Scotland. So they're doing stuff with me, and then they got to do stuff with Liam over there, English Wolf. and then Brian Hoy in Holland. So it should be done by sometime next year, but I don't know a date. But they're going to do a lot more in-depth stuff now that they've got the funding for it to do that. There will be some death metal played on my thing, which they need an okay from a lot of the bands. So anyone listening, even yourself, if you've got so many good slam riffs that you don't mind them contacting to use, feel free to send them over and I'll put them in touch with you. Because I had music I wanted to use, but they can't use it because of copyright issues. So I figure,
Uh, I'm pretty good acquaintances with quite a few bands now from doing
yeah,
these interviews and shit. So I'll even put something out there as
forward
kind
the
of a
message.
feeler.
Yeah. If anyone has anything they want to use when they come to New York that would be featured on my fucking stuff, they'd get full credit for it. I'd give them a shout out for it. They would too. They would be in touch with them to get their okay. But yeah, so I figure I'd ask.
Yeah, absolutely. Anybody watching this, hit us up. But
That's cool though that you don't normally do these fight pod like I said, music one because normally I always get fight podcast people who ask me stuff and it kind of got boring after a while. It's nice that I could speak to something that's a little different where I could actually talk about the music aspect and all
sure.
that.
Same on my side, man. Because like the last couple years I've just been maybe my son getting into wrestling was part of it, but
Yeah,
I was watching like I've watched I grew up watching pro wrestling too. And
yeah,
my dad would, got me interested in boxing on top of that.
yeah.
Um Around high school, got introduced to UFC and all that. So I've been a fan of any kind of combat sport and fighting in general forever. And yeah, for me, there's a definite parallel between the two of them. There's
Yeah.
something about both of them that it just hits that same spot or feeling for me anyway, and I think a lot of people too. But
Well, yeah, like I said before, you're not going to find, generally speaking, your average fan that listens to Justin Bieber wanting to see King of the Streets. But if you put on someone who's a fan of like jungle rock, they might like it a little more. Be like, oh, this is right up my fucking alley. What was it? Mortician or something like that. People want to see it. Whereas your average, like, fucking, I listen to the pop music, they're going to be horrified and be like, who's this barbarian? Put that man in jail. He's gouging people's eyeballs. Fuck out of here. Yeah.
which I I think it's those pop fans. They probably need to see it the most. They need a little bit of a
I,
reminder
yeah,
of, you know, what we
I
can
hate
do.
that music. Like when I fucking went to the gym before and my headphones and I've lost them or broke, I can't work out, especially when I would lift. And I can't work out when they've got like fucking, again, it goes back to Justin Bieber or all this other stupid shit that they play at those gyms. How the fuck am I supposed to squat 400 something pounds or lift it with that on? It doesn't give me any drive. I need to hear like strong fucking, like crazy blast beats and like slam riffs that can increase my lifts by like 80% for like a set or two. I'll even put that shit on when I'm taking my steroids that hurt. Like, cause some of that stuff that I injected really fucking hurts like a motherfucker. What was it? So you like gotta amp yourself fucking up and
Oh
like
yeah.
fucking like blast it into like some fucking reputation or something and feel like an orc, like getting bigger, stronger. Put the my girl always be like, "What the fuck are you putting on?" Like I put like my own like death metal shit on. I'll put it on to like shoot my fucking juice up because it hurts so fucking much when it's the fast acting esters. So yeah, death metal for everything. You go to sleep listening to it.
I know I know my wife actually. I think she's like gone to sleep listening to black metal before. She's
Oh yeah,
been
black metal's great.
yeah. But
Um,
gyms are notorious for playing the worst garbage, and I gotta
horrible.
if I'm by myself, earbuds in, and just usually like some kind of slam or something, just because the pace is great
Yeah,
for trying to stay with steady reps. But
yeah,
I got a buddy, and most of the time we're just talking shit to each other and trying to get each other psyched up, or try to make somebody laugh and drop a weight or whatever. And it's all just background noise at that point. But
yeah. Well,
um,
so sometimes in the jujitsu though, like they'll have like blind melon or like fucking 311 playing, and it's like, yo, I just got strangled to death 5 times in a fucking row. Change this. Like, I don't
Right?
want to fucking like pass out here and blind melon. Like, what the fuck is that? I hate that fucking band.
The last thing you hear is you're blacking out. Blind Melon.
Yeah, and it's fucking ridiculous. Like, what are you listening to? To like the instructor who's like a insane like jujitsu person. Like, oh, I like everything. Well, don't like everything. Like one thing. Put on some Cradle of Filth with some fucking like good something. Not this. I don't want to get my fucking head broken to this.
Hmm, that's awesome. Uh,
Yeah.
well, we will let's try to close this out with I always do end these the same way. I do like a top four death metal bands and
Mhm.
or albums, whichever is easier.
Yeah.
And frankly, I'm looking forward to your recommendations. I feel like you'll name at least a couple that I need to go look up
All right.
after we get done.
Yeah. Okay. Should I give it now?
Yeah, go ahead, man.
All right. I might give. Can I give like some def? If there's a band that I don't know the name of the album, can I still give the band's name?
Yeah, absolutely.
All right. So the first and foremost is Mortal Decay, and the album would be Forensic. There's nothing better than that. And then after that, you're gonna have. I'd have to go with. This is gonna be a little tricky. Yeah, I'll go with the early like. What was that fucking one with the internal bleeding? The one where you're shooting them on the cover. I can't remember the fucking name of that album, but
Oh,
it's one of the
I
Anointed in
know
Servitude. Or
I know which one you're talking about. I have it saved.
yeah, I can't remember the name.
Uh, Voracious Contempt.
Yeah, Voracious Contempt. Yeah, that Voracious Contempt. And then the third, there's a band called uh, Fornicator. They
Okay.
used to be called Murder Basket. If you look them up online, don't judge me for their fucking lyrics. What was it? If you look them up online, Fornicator, look up the song "Bodies You'll Never Find."
Okay.
Um, they have some ridiculous songs, and some of them even push the limits. Honestly, for me, lyrically, but the fucking guitars, in my opinion, are so good. I'll send you one in a minute when we're off. And then the fourth one would be obviously Dying Fetus. Like,
Classic.
and no particular, probably purific. What was it? Purification of what was the? There was the one with like purification through violence or something. It was it was their album. They did the cover of Scum from Fuck the Week from Napalm Death with their they covered it on there.
I'm trying to remember. Hang on a second.
It's got like war machinery with like Jesus' face in the middle.
Oh, what is that? Oh, there it was. It was crap. Where'd it go? Yeah, purification through violence.
Yeah, that one. Those that's amazing.
That just and
My
actually just
fucking
pulling up Apple Music, that just reminds me I still need to listen to that newer album.
compulsion for cruelty or something.
Yeah, that's on it. I guess the album's called Make Them Beg for Death. It's a
Oh, okay.
that's a sick
This
album
isn't
cover.
death. This isn't death metal. What I'm going to say next, but it's hardcore in the realm of death metal. There's
Okay.
a band called Bad Luck 13, Ride Extravaganza.
I love that fucking band.
So do I. I love them more than death metal, honestly. And it's weird that I say that because when I say that is they don't have the grinding, the solos of Trey Astaroth. They don't have Glenn Benton. You know what I'm saying? But their lyrics are all about stabbing and beating people up. Their
Oh yeah.
music is slamming as fuck. Um,
Their
like the
shows are
Dark
crazy.
Military. Oh, yeah, yeah. I love that band. Like to me, that is my all-time favorite band. But you asked specifically for death metal. That's why I said death metal. But
Sure.
Bad Luck 13 is up there. But I don't consider Bad Luck 13 like I don't consider that hardcore because I don't really like hardcore. Like Sick of It All isn't my thing. To me, Bad Luck 13, if you just heard the word hardcore, is what you would think hardcore should be. But yeah, they're not like fucking they're not like one of those bands like I don't like bands that have like positive messages like strength through unity, we shall persevere. Like Hatebreed sounds great, but they're not negative enough for me. And Jamie Johnson has got a great voice, and they're great musically. I just wish he would be singing about like stomping someone that he hates instead of like we must overcome and like I want to hear like about killing people that I hate. And then Hate Plow is really good too. I was gonna say I kind of overlooked Hate Plow, but they're good.
Do you
The
like
only law is survival.
do you like the band Murder Death Kill?
I never heard of them.
They're like a beat down hardcore band,
Oh,
and
I'm
all
gonna
their
check them out now.
and they've come here and played like 3 or 4 times, and I would always make
Yeah.
it a point to go see them. They're like a bunch of like California street thugs, and that's kind of what their
Oh,
lyrics are about.
okay,
And
good. I
it
could
is,
appreciate
and the
that.
music is, it just sounds like a fight.
Yeah, I like that type of hardcore of like sludgy, like slamming stuff.
Oh
It
yeah,
either has to listen if you're not on the level of fucking Cryptopsy or Dying Fetus, don't try to be on the level. You know what I mean? If
oh
you
yeah.
can't play it, don't try to do it. So I think a lot of hardcore bands maybe can't do that, but they can do what they do great, and that's great too. Like I can't picture Bad Luck 13 doing blast beats for 3 fucking minutes, but they can do their breakdown stuff of what they do and sing about insane shit. So I like it. Yeah. I'll talk about music as much as fucking fighting, so at least your fans won't be sitting here like this guy's talking about nothing we care about.
Oh, I think we've had a pretty good mix of both here.
Yeah.
We'll please both
All right.
camps.
Yeah. Let me get going. I'm going to send you some stuff over. I want you to listen to it and tell me what you think.
Fuck yeah, man, absolutely. And anything I can think of, I'll try to send your way too.
Yeah. Appreciate it.
That'll be what our DM thread will just turn into, just
Yeah.
music back and
Oh,
forth.
will. Yeah. 100%.
Well, hell yeah, man. I know normally I kind of take this last moment to, let my guests plug whatever they got going. I know you're in recovery.
Yeah.
As soon as as soon as you're you got a date for a fight, I know it'll be
Yeah.
late next year at the earliest. Send it my way. I'll try my best to blow it up any way I can.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
Absolutely, dude. And Eric,
Yeah.
thank you so much for coming on here, man. It's been an
Thank
absolute
you so
pleasure.
much. I appreciate it, Ryan.
Absolutely. And hey, maybe after your next fight, maybe we can have you back on or something. Who knows?
Yeah. Yeah. Definitely. Cool. Yeah. And
Cool,
any
dude.
bands that have any good like death metal and slam stuff, send because I'll use it and I'll give you a shout out.
Absolutely. I'll do a story or a post or something this evening when we hop off here and
Yeah.
start putting stuff out there as like a feeler and maybe message a few of the guys I know. But
All right. Cool. Thank you.
cool. Well,
All
dude,
right.
thank you so much and enjoy the rest of your weekend, man.
Yep. I'll see you later. I'll send you some stuff in a minute.
Please do.
Bye, man.
Bye. And thank y'all.
Bye.